of what I heard. That's the feeling I got.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I mean, everybody's just been. I can't even recall all of the things that you wrote about. I can just recall, like, I could even just look at the pictures, and it was crazy because there was so many. Obviously, the animals, number one, and God, just thinking about like being that close to them, and then picking up some of. I did pick up some of the stuff, like you had a telepathic conversation with an animal, but the big thing for me was the rocks, was the stones. They were like, I can't even explain it. I would look at the picture, and I might have read some of the words, but I would understand that these were parts of us from prior civilizations, pieces of monoliths and structures, and all the wisdom and the code that they carried. It was almost like they came out of the ground to greet you. So I don't know, but I'm anxious to hear about it. So let me tag you real quick. I'm going to tag you and just make sure that we're on, because I can't see from here on Zoom. So
it's very interesting. They told me that the pictures would energetically connect to people, and so you're confirming that.
that's exactly what happened to me. I mean, and oh, let me tag you. Hang on. They're just coming in now anyway. So
Okay.
let's see. Edit Judith. There you are. Okay. Boom. Let's see. There's about 80 people in here. Okay. Yeah. So welcome back, Judith Kusel. The last I heard, might have to back up a little bit, but the last I heard from Morgan that you got a call, and I don't know the geography of North Africa. I think it was northern South Africa. I think is where you went, and
Yeah.
I don't know the names or anything, but just to kind of pick up where we left off before the people were here. Yeah, I heard that you were going somewhere, and the next thing I know, I see these pictures coming in, and I was just telling Judith that, it was powerful to look at the animals, all of them, the elk or whatever they are, I think there
Don't
was
have
a
options.
hippo and a alligator, and there was elephants and lions. Oh my gosh, the lions!
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
the rocks and the stones, the god, I would say the grandfather and grandmother rocks that were parts of structures from previous civilizations and monoliths. It looked like you could see faces, and it looked like they just came out of the ground to greet you. It was amazing. So, how did that all start? Did that come out of nowhere? Did you have uh, any idea that you were going to be going, weeks in advance, or did it just pop up?
Well, I'm finding my friend, she just moved there and she would send me these pictures, and somehow or other, I always knew that I would end up going there. But, January and these last few months have been very tough on me. This whole year has been very tough on me. It's in all forms, like, we're all going through this massive transition. And with that, I was being challenged right, left, and center. And so much challenge that they literally told me, well, now get onto the plane and go do the work that you're being called to do. So I got to the plane. I couldn't even walk before, and I didn't know how I was going to get onto the plane, and I didn't know how to walk because I was in such pain. And then, I just took that leap of faith and said, okay, if you call me, well, then I will go. And then the most amazing thing is when I got there, I always call in the guardians and the keepers, because every place has got their own guardians and the keepers who actually hold the energy of the place, and they will not allow anybody near those sacred places if you are not of the right intent and if you do not ask permission to enter. But I knew there was a pyramid there, and as I sort of, like, before the plane landed, the pilot flew over, and all I could see was these pyramids. I was like nearly hanging out of this airplane's windows to try and see them. And with that, I started to connect with the energy of the whole field. Now, I've never been this far north. I've been in Natal, sort of like right up to the Mozambique border, but I've not been on the side that goes right up to Zimbabwe, that I have not been in, and the Kruger National Park in the north. But beforehand, they actually got me to get the map that Lynette sent me. And on that map, I started to draw the energy lines, as I always am told to do. And as I looked at this, I thought to myself, oh, this is going to be amazing, and just, very, very powerful work that I'm being called to do. When I got there, the next morning, I had the high priest, of the inner earth, the Agatha, the red people, the first people who were ever on this planet. They are very tall, and they actually never left the planet. They just withdrew inside the earth, I had this high priest appearing to me, and he was a very, very tall and beautiful man with a top knot on his, sort of hair, on the top knot, reddish hair, sort of like auburn hair. And then with this beautiful white garment, and at the bottom of the hem of a garment were beautiful symbols that were etched into the garment. And he welcomed me, and he said, okay, we will work with you. Now, these ancient people are called the Ancient Ones. They are souls that withdrew into the inner earth when immense upheavals occurred, because the whole of the Bladder River Canyon, where I was, it's the third largest canyon in the world. So the Grand Canyon is the first, and then there's the Fish River Canyon in Namibia, and this is the third one, the biggest one. And I actually, when I looked at these massive rocks and these massive mountains, which are still part of the Drakensberg Mountains, where I come from in Natal, and where I've actually done energy work and for a long time, since 2004. So they actually connect to that. But I was shown that the waters were much higher then, where the mountains are, because the river is right at the bottom now. And that at that stage, the waters were very much high. And then I was shown the abodes. They would show me where the inner portals were. They would show me how they are still there. But because of these catastrophes happened, on Earth, which we always had, the waters subsided. So the whole sort of like ocean that was there were just drained out. And so the Bladder River Canyon was formed. So it's right down in the bottom. Now, this is exactly the same story of what happened to the Grand Canyon in America, where there's also were waters and an ocean. They had a big lake there, and that drained, and that's how the Great Canyon was formed, you see? So with all these great catastrophes happen. So with that, they had to withdraw into the inner earth. But the ruins of their places are still there. They live there, but still in the higher dimensional state, which is what, of the 5th to 7th dimensional state. And as I was traveling there, one day we took a boat trip, because they made a dam now for that. So in other words, the lake is back to where it was. It was just the most amazing thing. As they opened, the thing is, we are now stepping in, as a new earth is formed, we are stepping into multidimensionality, When you start stepping into multidimensionality, you can span dimensions. You don't need to be in, we are not in the third anymore. We have already moved into the 5th. But these beings live in the 7th. So with that, the downloads came. There's the true history of Africa, as I've already recorded, but now in a different form. And it's so interesting that when information comes to me, I always record it. And it will always be confirmed. So that day when we rode the boat, the guy that was our guide, he said to me, this once was a huge inland ocean, a river, an ocean, a sea, and it drained, and that's how the canyon was formed. I said, thank you very much. Now you're confirming what was given to me. So it became a most amazing journey. And interestingly, there is a huge connection here to the African tradition, because the African people, when they got there, okay, you must remember this, when these civilizations disappeared, and you must remember the draining of waters, there were no people there, okay. So the tribes of the African tribes came down from West Africa, okay, with their cattle and so on, and they started to settle in these places. But they never, ever went to those places where there were already ruins and the sacred places, because they say, we will not disturb the ancestors there.
Wow.
And also what happens is these sacred places, they actually every year, the High Shanusi of the African people go to the altars, which are still there, and they do ceremonies. In other words, they honor these people and give thanks that they look after them, because they do look after them in a very high way. But what is even more important now, the whole time we were working with the intergalactic fleet, and every time we worked, they were there. The spaceships were there. The camera picked them up. So this really was a multi-dimensional work we were doing in the highest sense.
Good gosh. Okay, that's a lot to unwrap there. Can we go back to, okay, so you weren't even in good health. You didn't know how you were going to walk. You go anyway, and you get there, and you're greeted by this tall, reddish man with the auburn hair, and he tells you, yes, we'll work with you. Like, what did that consist of? Did he tell you, what did he tell you? What came through that exchange? And how did you know what to do?
Because I was already drawing what I had to do on the map. I knew that I had to work with massive energy centers that have been dormant for many, many thousands of years, millions of years, actually. You can say billions of years, because
Wow.
Africa is very old. Africa is the first continent, the supercontinent. That's what the geologists talk about, the supercontinent. And some of those places the geologists have actually say go back about 300 million years. And they're putting the years back, because it's one time.
That's true.
Yeah, that's right. And the thing is, if everything is imprinted, okay, the whole energies and every history of Earth is imprinted in the Earth, okay, but it's also imprinted in the rocks,
Right.
okay. Now I found standing circles, I found standing stones, I found megaliths, I found whatever it is, if dolmens, you name it, they're all there. But somehow the South Africans never take notice of them, because the farmers come and they take the land or whatever, or the tribes come and they honor these stones, okay, because you can see them everywhere, but they don't touch them. They're sort of like avoiding it, because they understand that there's energy in them, okay. And you can see the remains everywhere, you go. If you look, but most people, they go with blind eyes, through the world. They don't see for seeing. The minute that you actually start opening all your faculties, and you start working with the guardians and the keepers and the ancient ones, the whole landscape changes. Everything opens up. And you now start to tune into the higher dimensional state, and you start to understand that, okay? And it's not just the rocks, but the trees also hold. Like the baobab trees of Africa are ancient. They were brought here by the Pleiadians. And in African tradition, they will tell you that the Pleiadians were the creator gods, okay? Because they brought in the plants and the species. So the baobab trees, some of them are thousands of years old. We went to one tree that is 2,000 years old, okay? Wow. And you look at this tree, It has recorded everything that is around it because trees communicate via their roots and they hold the whole web of life. Now, the baobab trees are exactly on the spine of the earth and they actually sort of hold the whole web of light in place.
Wow.
So, you know what I understood now is the interconnectedness of everything. We are stepping into that where we will understand that there's nothing that was ever created that is not connected. The animals connect in, the birds connect in, the trees connect in, the rocks connect in, the whole landscape. You know, every mountain will tell you a story if you actually start tuning into it. Because you must remember, with all the upheavals, the pyramids were buried. Okay. But you see, the pyramids are everywhere in South Africa. Most people don't notice them until you start looking at them. You see, they're pyramids. We were in the Kruger Park and we found these pyramids were absolutely aligned, okay? And they are so aligned that if you actually go, you look at them and you say, my goodness me, these things are right under people's noses and they don't see them. And what is even more funny was my own brother is an archaeologist. I know that he's been working on the sites in the Kruger Park.
Really?
Okay, so I know that. But, I mean, we were on the most ancient pyramid site where there's a museum now. And that museum is dedicated to the Iron Age. I just stood and laughed. Here are these massive megalithic rocks. This place is staring at you and saying to you, take notice of me. I've never seen such massive rocks in my life. I mean, it must be giants that created them. They're perfectly carved, okay? I have seen those rocks in Egypt. I've seen them in ancient Greece. Here they are in Africa, and the geologists say this is Iron Age.
Wow.
You know, you stand and your mouth hangs open. And I mean, it's so interesting because the gentleman who's actually is the curator of a museum, he came and I mean, he saw us looking at these rocks in the wedding. He came and said, oh, can I, give you a guided tour? So I very gently said to him, but I asked him, I said, you are one of the tribal people here. Do you know that this place is sacred? He said, yes. I said, and did your people build this? He said, no, they didn't build this. So he was honest. He said, they didn't build this. Okay. But he was taking tours of but you can see where the Stone Age settlements were because the stones, there's stone paths there and they sort of, but it's very much a primitive state compared to the megalithic state. Okay.
Wow. I was going to say, you can only imagine because just a couple of things, and then please continue. But everything happens. There's no coincidences. So I came into in the last 30 days, like through your pictures was a big part of it. I've been seeing more faces in rock formations and all that, whether it's a picture, I'm driving down the road here in Arkansas with all the mountains. But like what you're talking about, I was going to ask you, was that guy part of the tribe? Because of the fact that the tribesmen know about these things, and that has to be done through oral history. It has to be done just through passing things orally, which we know that's a tradition with a lot of the indigenous type of civilizations. But also I believe it's the Navajo. I know it is. It's in the Grand Canyon. There's a section in the Grand Canyon that to this day, no one can go in but true Navajo. And their story, their oral history involves the Pleiadians, and it involves that their ancestors came from the inner earth. And about 10 days ago, I was getting a download, and it was very strange, and I thought it was beautiful because it was talking about before the last ice age, before the water rose and it melted and rose, how I saw like this scene where the women in the tribe were saying, we've got to go underground. Like they were getting this intel, just like today, where the feminine was getting the intel, hey, something's coming. And they went underground. And this would have been, I don't even know, just probably like you said, like millions of years ago. I don't even know. But yeah, the fact that they've passed this along through these years is just crazy.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's interesting because we were picking up Kreda Mutwa, who was died last year, Van.
You were picking him up?
Yeah, picking him up, yeah. Because we found his altar, where he always did the ceremonies, you see. He was guided to them. But I mean, interestingly enough, I was saying to Lynette, years ago, there was a book that he read about the children of the stars, or the star people. We actually talks about the star people and the different races that have come through, that the red ones were the first, and then there were 6 earths that were created. And he said when he died, the 7th would come. And interestingly, one of my friends, Susan Diane, has just confirmed that the mystical teachings of a Kabbalah actually confirm that.
I know her. She's amazing. I met her the other
day. So that is confirmed by the Kabbalist. Okay. So how did the African people know that? It's because of their traditional and keeping things in the tribe. They were not allowed to even change one word out of the oral tradition, you see. That's right. So they know about these things, and when I was in the Kruger Park, we was in the restaurant and we met this beautiful soul. He was just shining inside, and he said to me, I asked him, I said, well, when we got through the Pafuri gate, we were just finding all these runes everywhere. He said, yes, when my people came, they were already there. But we honor them as sacred places. And today I can just say thank you to Paul Kruger, who was the president of the Zuid-Afrikaanse Republiek, which was the Transvaal at that stage, which were because the Boers ran away from the British colony. Right. Eventually, the British sort of had the Boer War because they wanted the gold, and that's how they started the Boer War. But anyway, he actually had the foresight to declare the whole of the Kruger Park, which is a big chunk of South Africa, and made that a national park. Today, I thank Paul Kruger and those of his ilk who had the foresight to do that, because the most sacred and holy sites are beautifully preserved where? In the Kruger Park.
Wow. And the priest Credo, or I can't say his last name, but I discovered him, like a lot of people, I discovered him a few years ago in his interviews with David Icke, which were just fascinating. But I don't know if everyone understands this man was an amazing man. He listened to his inner guidance, and he shared a lot of information with the rest of the world, and he took a lot of abuse for that. So he was a very brave man, and the fact that he called the 7th peoples on the point of his transition is an amazing thing. And then I didn't know that he transitioned a year ago, so another positive sign. So these, I mean, like when you were saying, like you were in the plane and you were looking out the window, you could see the pyramids, and just even like from your pictures, I mean, obviously it was so amazing. It made me wonder after doing some of the research I've done over the years and seeing these different things in the rocks. I thought, well, were they building statues of each other, or were these actually them when they laid down to transition? Because some of them you can clearly see faces, and then of course other ones, these pieces, they're pieces of a building that are just ginormous. They're incredibly large and, of course, incredibly heavy.
Well, I tell you what, we were stopping that because, if you're in a Kruger Park, you may not get out of your car because there are lions and things around and they're not allowing you inside. But we tried to get as near to these places as we could. Luckily my camera does fine. But I mean, I looked through the binoculars. Uh-huh. There are massive statues there, and you know what they reminded me of were the statues in Karnak, the colossi. Well, yes. These are the colossi. They are colossal. They are huge. And when I tapped into the history, I was told that these were sacred temples. And if you actually look at them, where they're situated, we were always shown the energy lines, and they were bang slap on the energy lines. There was not one that was not in the energy lines. And the interesting part is that I was told before I started my journey, you have to go to Timbavati. Timbavati is a private game reserve, which is next to the Kruger. And I said, okay, I always knew that the Timbavati was associated with the white lions, mainly because of Linda Tucker's work. But, I just thought, well, I don't know. I do need to go to Timbavati, but I'll go to Timbavati. and when we got to Timbavati, I was very, very disappointed because the energy there was just not right. There's just something that was not gelling with the energy. And interesting as it comes, I was also getting the whole idea that this was part of the ocean that drained, you see. It was fun because the low felt is absolutely flat there. It's flat, the spine. So it was an ocean. And you can see there's sea sand. The rocks even look, some of them you can see that it's like sand that has been packed together. So it was under sort of like an ocean, like the Great Lakes in Africa. Africa's got a lot of the Great Lakes. And I always wondered where South Africa's lakes are, but they were there. They're just that they drained. Like Botswana used to also be part of the lakes and is gone. It's also now flat and sandy. And the thing is, interesting, Renette, we were sitting at lunchtime and Renette said to me, there's something wrong here. I said, yes, we need to do energy work. So instead of going out on the game drive, we decided to rather stay. And, at that stage, we literally, with the help of everybody and the intergalactics, we had to clear there from the bowls of the earth. Wow. And what came out was we were clearing the Anunnaki there, okay, with their whole history of abuse. Not abuse because there were two factions of them, okay, but we won't go into the whole history of it. But I have cleared them in Kaapse, which is a bit further up where the gold mines still are. But anyway, so what came up were robots that were created by them at that stage, and which the robots had turned against them. This was a war between two brothers, which ended the Lion Kingdom. Wow. Then you had the half man, half beasts, okay, where they mixed human DNA with animal, species. And some of these creatures, they were horrible. These poor creatures, how they ever managed to even sustain life, I do not know. This was a gross miscreation of humankind, and, the worst of humankind that they can even conjure up somewhere along the line. And then there were the people that were enslaved, to do the hard work in the gold mines, so on. And literally, with this whole war, they used atomic lasers and things. And that's why this whole jolly thing drained out, you see. And we had to literally go from the bowls of the earth and start clearing that. And we cleared and cleared and cleared. And then we had to free the animals, because you must remember the elephants were slaughtered when the colonials came in. What did they do? They hunted and they shot everything in sight. I worked in the museum where you saw pictures of elephants sort of stacked on top of each other just because of ivory. Lions just shot for sport, nothing in sight. You see why the Kruger Park, thank blessing for Paul Kruger for helping these animals. But in that, the trauma of the animals also had to be cleared, this trauma of the landscape. Wow. And, it is so interesting when that was done, that we spent a few hours doing the work. When that was done, the lions started roaring around the camp.
Really?
At night. The next morning, they were roaring us awake. The birds started singing. The whole place became alive, okay? And as a bonus with all of that when we went for a game drive that afternoon, It was so beautiful because, the interconnected between the animals and the birds and so on, because we found that in the Kruger Park, when we needed to find the places that we needed to go to, first the birds would appear. The birds would tell us what to do. Then the next thing, the impala would appear. They're the smallest antelope. Then they would literally stand in the row, in the road, look at us. Now the impalas run away when there's a car. They would stand in the road and look at us, communicate, attend. Then the zebras came. The zebras would also stand in the road, just look at us, okay? And then the eagle would start to move around, swirl around, the eagles, show us the places. And then the elephants. Okay, so the whole communication with the elephants were there. I mean, I've already done that a few years ago when I connected to the matriarch of the elephant. And when we were at this picnic place that one day, we were the only people there. There was a guard there, and it's just us. And we sat down, and but before we sat down, we saw this elephant, this lonely elephant coming and drinking out of one of those water tanks they had there, because they need the water tank for the ablution blocks. And then, but there was something deliberate about that elephant. And then we saw the elephant going and having a mud bath. I was sitting and watching this elephant, and the next thing, it was almost like I have to get up and I've got to move to a certain place. And when I got to a certain place, I said, oh my goodness, there is one of those water holes right next to where I was sitting. Meantime, the guard has got no idea what's going on behind him, okay? Which was just as well, because he would have stopped it. The next minute, that elephant went straight towards us, straight. And the next thing, she was actually drying herself on one of the bushes. But it was, calm, beautiful energy, okay? You can see when an animal is agitated. She was not agitated. And then more people arrived, but luckily for them, they didn't make a sound. So it was like silence, you see. And the elephant came near, and then something was lifting me and said, go back to where you were. We're having your lunch, because we just left everything there. And as I went back, she came straight towards me. And I was looking at her, and she was looking at me. And there was this immense thank you for what had happened. Thank you for freeing us. Thank you. We will work with you. We will help you with the energy lines, because the elephants walk that lines with their feet. They walk it in. They hold the energy of the earth. They communicate intergalactically. That's maybe part of the whales and the dolphins that came in from Sirius. And then when we had released this energy of Timbavati with the lions roaring, that morning we found the lions, but these were all male lions. I just done a kill about two nights ago. And they said, thank you. We just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. We will roar the energy open, and we will keep the lines open, because the lions roar the energy lines open to Sirius. And now that we reconnected to the 7 central suns, those lions are keeping us there, because they brought that energy in. And there are Christed lions who are in Sirius. The king and queen are the Christ lions, who are white lions with a star on their forehead. They're holding the energy for the whole earth. And then that afternoon, we were so blessed. And first of all, the giraffe were also in the picture, because the giraffe, they open your third eye. That's why they've got these like antennas on their heads. And the funny thing is, we were just coming sort of like into the drive when we saw all these giraffes. There were about 13 of them. And all of them were looking in the same direction. Now, that's totally unusual. And I said to our game ranger, I said, goodness me, I've never seen giraffes staring so much. And they're all staring at the same place. What they're staring at? Well, what the giraffe was staring at was a lioness, because she was coming through the bush. We saw her. And then Then the rest of the giraffe ran away, but 4 of the giraffes stood there as guards. They were watching this lioness the whole time. So they stood guard for the rest. But they were warning everybody, that the lions had come, but they didn't quietly, silently. They didn't make any noise or whatever. Wow. They were watching her. And here she comes strolling out of the bush. And then we are here, parked here. She's right there. She lies herself down and she starts roaring. And then the giraffes sort of come and they look at her. Oh, what are you going to do now, And then she turned around, she looked at it, she sat and she looked at the giraffe, and there was this quiet communication between the giraffe and her, saying, listen, I'm not going to kill you. I am not hunting today. You can go, shoo off. I'm busy here. So she goes and she lies down again and she starts roaring. And when these lions roar, they roar. The whole earth starts shaking when they roar. And then she sits there, and what's beautiful, as I'm getting it, is that she's sitting with the lions have their heart right to the ground. Okay, she had her paws open and facing her heart. Uh-huh. And this energy communication between me and her was just amazing. And then suddenly there her sisters come out. And there was this total joy of seeing each other again. And then this message came: we thank you, we thank you, we thank you. We will work this with you. We will do the work with you. We are the ones that keep the lines. We keep the opening of a new earth in. We are already stepping into it. So you see, the lions are not just the king of the animals, but they do immense work. And I was told a few weeks later, when Casper, who's one of the white lion in near the Satara region where we were, and he in nighttime we could hear them roaring, but we didn't see them. Then through the roar, he was communicating with me, saying thank you very much. And he said again, we will come to the time when we will all work as one again, where we will not kill anything. We will move now in the new earth where all will be as it was in the beginning. So you see the interconnectedness now that's coming to the fore. We were deeply, deeply touched that every time that we were at the sacred spots and there, that the animals will come and they would actually show themselves, move with us, with the birds and the trees, and the whole area would come into a sacred space. And with the rocks, with all who hold the energy of that sacredness, with the ancient ones, and then the backup of the intergalactic fleet. So all was one. We have returned to the state of oneness and unity.
Wow. What was it like for you on a personal level? And you were traveling with some people too, I guess, but y'all must have been going through, I don't even know how y'all were able to sleep. You must have had so much energy coursing through you. You said 4 weeks you were there, but it must have seemed like just ages and ages.
You go into a totally different state, where you just do the work, whatever. And by the time it's nighttime, you just fall into that bed and you sleep. But I always know that nighttime I go and work anyway. I'm back with the intergalactic councils or whatever. I do work there. But and interestingly, my pain went away. I can walk again. I could walk. I could climb.
Are you surprised?
I was surprised. I was like, oh, thank you. That was the gift that was given me. But I understand that I was prepared for this, that it was a way of preparing my energy fields and my body to be able to hold that immense energy. Because what was so beautiful about every site that we went to, these ancient these ancient buildings that just boggle your mind, because it was giants that created them, and as you say, there's faces in them. There's even like figures that come out there. It must have been beautiful when this was standing in its glory, as it was. I've never seen such massive buildings in South Africa before. It's just wow! I was just astounded. But it also has to do with what is underground, because all the underground cities are there, the underground lakes are all there in Africa, and this correlates with stories that I've heard, for a long time, from people that have been here, and through law, that these underground cities are there. But it's people are just not allowed anywhere near these places. As I say, they know that they can't get access there. That they are, and I mean, the American Indians would tell you the same. It's only those that are real shamans that are out in that area, and they do their energy work there. And with that, you also realize that I mean, I was literally going into these energy fields, and then I was singing the places alive. It was so beautiful, because this came through in light language, and it would literally, every place had a different song. Every place had a different way of being opened. And I was told that in the beginning, the sound created everything. That's why they could create these massive buildings. They could create it all with sound. And the sound is literally reverberates through the earth, through the spine. The spine is a tuning fork. It's also where your light comes in and your light tune. That's why our spine now needs to be opened up, so that we can get that higher dimensional state in, because that is how we tune into the multidimensionality. With that, it is through sound that we actually communicate with everything. Now, listen to the animals. They communicate with sound. They make sound. The birds sing. Everybody communicates through sound, but also telepathy. And we can all create. The telepathy is what's coming back now on all forms. Yeah. We will not need to use our vocal cords anymore, so we cannot lie anymore. There's no need to lie. If you're authentic and truthful, you will live your truth, and you won't be anything else but your truth. And that is all coming back now. What I was shown is that we had to put literally where the spine was, that we were busy working on the earth. But there was one sort of vertebra that gone sort of like out of joint, and we had to put it right back where it was. Then you put back, then everything is flowing again. The whole energy is flowing. So what's happened here is Africa's been released.
Wow.
And because Africa has been released, the whole world has been released. The old earth is no more. And, that is why we've got nothing to fear, because we cannot go back into the old earth anymore. The old earth can throw tantrums, can do whatever it likes. They will just be lifted off the earth, because they will not be able to hold the higher frequencies anymore.
Yeah. And so the priest from the inner earth, the intergalactic fleet, the animals, the grandmother and grandfather rocks, and everything, the trees, they're all concurring that the time has come, or the time is here. It's not coming, it's here now.
Yeah. And 2 nights ago, I was seeing how the whole intergalactics were actually celebrating. Really? They were celebrating. They were telling me for millions of years, everybody has been working towards this. We star seeds that are here, we were prepared for this. There's not one of us that are here by accident. We are all here by grand design, and we chose to be here. It's the end of the old earth. And we were brave enough to say, okay, here I am. This planet was never made for sissies, and we're not sissies.
You're not a sissy, that's for sure. I'm looking at those pictures, I'm thinking, looking at the lions and everything, and of course the human in me, I'm thinking, where do they sleep? Like, Like, and now you're telling me that the lions are all roaring at night. I'd be like, oh my God, what are we going to do? But listening to you, I really get the multidimensionality too, because that's not just a lion. That's not just a giraffe. Just like
No.
we have other aspects in other places, they
Mm-mm.
are too. So
Yeah.
the interconnectedness is, at first glance, it's not, well, you're there and then that person's there. And it's not, it's much deeper than that.
Yes. We are all interconnected. We're all interconnected. You do not need to be physically anywhere to connect. You can connect energetically wherever you want to, because your soul is not bound by earth. It's not bound by the physicality. You can go and traverse the whole cosmos. You don't even need to go there with your body. You see, we got so hung up in the 3D with the physical form.
Yeah.
You've got to be physically perfect. You've got to be physically this, everything's got to be physical. And that was a very slow and low density. Okay. Our soul has always known it doesn't need the body. It's a vessel. Okay. That's why you don't die. You just shed the vessel and go on. But we think that that the body is the be all and end all of all existence. It's not.
Mm-mm. No.
Excuse me.
Do the tribesmen, the tribal people, do they know this information? I mean, do they, through their oral history, do they know? I guess so. That this time was coming, no different than the prophecy of the rainbow children and all. I guess it's all the same, right?
Well, you get those of them that have totally become westernized, and they sort of like forgotten their roots, and they turned their back on the tribal things. But there's still those that keep very much to their tribal origins and their tribal core. And with both of them, there are those that follow the light and those that do not follow the light. You have both of them, like you have everywhere in the world. That's what's finding it. But, they the ones that are really aware and awake have actually seen this time coming for a long, long time. And they, as I say, they still look after the places. They still do offerings there because they've always had this great respect for the ancestors. And whether it's in ancestors or they don't worship the ancestors. What they do is they honor the ancestors and saying we all come from a certain point,
Right.
in time, and we're all going towards a certain point in time. And you have to honor the spirits that were there before you, because you are literally the DNA that you carry from your ancestors. So there's also within the tribes, there's a lot of that history that where tribes went against tribe, brother against brother, So
Right.
they also have their sort of things there that need to be sorted out. But what is so beautiful, like this person that we met, he was saying to me, he said, you know what? He said, when a person is spirit-filled, in other words, the soul is awake, not one of the tribal people will touch them because they know that God lives within them. I was deeply touched by that because it means that they know that if God lives within you, that means that you are one with the divine. You are untouchable. Because then you step into that omniversal thing, you step into the multidimensional, you experience omnipresence we experience this so deeply now with this whole interconnectedness of all of creation. You get to the stage where you just sit there and you do not speak. You are in a totally different field. You are in a totally different world where everything is one. There is just unity and harmony. And to me, that was the most touching experience. I can't even put this into words. You sit in nature, you are held by Mother Earth. You go and sit on that rock, you become that rock, you become the animals, you become the birds, you become all the intergalactics, you are everything. once you experience that, you realize that is what the new earth is all about. We're returning to the true state in which we were created in the first place. And that is what all the Christed interterrestrials know. That's why they cannot just go and walk here amongst us, because they are of such high frequency and vibration that we would disintegrate if we are in their presence. It's the same with these places. If you would go there and you are not energetically prepared for that, and your heart and your intent is not open, you will not be able to step into those places and experience what I have now experienced. Because you need to be in that energetic oneness and consciousness that you can tap into it. I'm just now thinking of in the Bible, the New Testament, where it says that Jesus was transfigured. Okay, then they stand on top of the mountain, and the disciples couldn't understand what had happened to him. What he was doing is he stepped into that higher consciousness field. He was in that consciousness where he was embracing all and everything.
That's a lot. I mean, I'm surprised that you guys didn't step through a portal and basically not come back.
I could have if I wanted to.
I figured. I figured that. And all of the intergalactics are celebrating. Like that really resonates. And the inner Earth, these are our...
They're part of the intergalactics because they never left.
Right.
You see, the inner Earth was created before the outer Earth. The stories of the African people say that. I was just reading what Credo Mutwa was saying in that book, like the Maasai people. They live in Serengeti, that is in Tanzania, that area. They're very tall people. They actually believe that they were inside the earth, again, inside the earth, and they came out after the great floods. And the intergalactics gave them the cattle, okay, and said they must look after these cattle because the cattle are holy and they may never, ever slaughter them, okay? Really? So they don't eat their cattle. They're not allowed to touch the cattle because the cattle is holy, but they farm with the cattle, okay? They look after them because they say we've got the custodians over these cattle and they're the very longhorn cattle. That's fine. But they do use a little bit of them, and that is that they cut a tiny incision, in their throat and get the blood out, and that gets mixed up with the milk, and that they are allowed to drink. Okay, but they're vegetarian. They don't do anything else. But they look after the cattle because they say that we were made custodians of these cattle, and we look after them. So there is a lot of the African law that knows this. I mean, even in the Drakensberg, the Zulus have always talked about the Mlungu, the people from the stars that were there. It's fine. There's a lovely book that was written by a meteorologist, a South African meteorologist, Elizabeth Clara, that she was in the Drakensberg where she met the people from Venus who was in the spaceship. There's a whole book. It was written in the 1950s, So it's not that they don't know about it. They do know about it. But it was that the Africans always knew that she would go and say, they're calling you, go. And she would go on a horse and then she would meet them, high up in that Heimville area in Natal. So these things have been recorded. I mean, as a librarian, I've always known that they were recorded because we had these books. And I mean, and it don't think that the governments don't know about this.
That's what I was going to ask you. I mean, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, certainly they have to have this information. And second of all, well, you would think that they would understand that they better raise their frequency as an individual, because it sounds to me like that. Based on what you're saying and what's, I think a lot of us have been feeling and wondering about is, like walking into one of those sacred places you're talking about. If you're not in alignment with your mind and your heart, you can't go in, but that's almost like a microcosm of the whole new earth. Like, how can you stay here if you're not going to match the frequency as it continues to move into a higher field?
Exactly. That is what, and it's interesting. Years ago, it was told me that they will just not be able to hold form. And at that stage, I didn't understand it. You know, I thought myself, how can they not be able to hold form? But I have understood it since then because, you know, we have shifted in these last few months. We have accelerated that shift. And they tell me it's going to escalate even more because that new earth is here. In February, we stepped right into the new golden age. So in other words, you know, when I was standing there and I was looking at these massive colossi, you know, that are on the mountain through the binoculars, I realized, oh my goodness, these things are alive. You know, it's like they were vibrating. They were literally like broadcasting out and saying, hey, here we are. You know, we've always been here. You've never seen us, but now you can see us, you know, type of thing. And people will start feeling that. They will literally go into these places and realize, oh my goodness, you know, everything is vibrating and everything is busy being activated because Egypt is getting activated. All the sacred sites are activated. You know, because everything is now pulsating with that new dimensional shift. It's the energy of the new earth, which is literally like, if you think this is the old earth, okay, now the new earth comes and it's literally like forming around, well, becoming as one with the old earth. What happens? This earth is contracting, you see, and disintegrating because it cannot hold that higher frequency band. And that is why people will find that they're being challenged now to go and say, okay, where do you want to be now? Do you want to be in the new earth or do you want to be in the old earth? It's your choice. Okay. Right. And many will just have their families or whatever it is pulling them back and say, oh, and then I can't let go of this, I can't let go of that. But you cannot hold on to anything anymore. You know, everything that you ever thought was real is not real. You know, it's that energetic changes that are now coming into form and being in all forms and way. And the beauty of this is once we experience that higher consciousness, once we experience that expansiveness, we can't go back to what we were before.
Right. Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah, and that includes like because the levels of detachment have gone to these very subtle levels to include like time and space. Like it, and this is just in the last few days for me, and I know it's got to be, you know, in the air, in the water, so to speak. But like I'm having to relocate from our house, so I've been having this challenge to this very subtle place that I didn't know existed. And I just went through, like a little process yesterday, and I traced it to it's just victim consciousness. I mean, they were subtle loops playing in my head because of the pressure that's not even real of having to relocate, not knowing where we're going to go, or where can I find a house for us, or there's all these unknowns, and I keep hearing like, well, that's where you need to be, like you just let go, let go. And I'm thinking, well, what's going to happen? Well, that's the way it works. This energy is to me, it feels very much like a lucid dream atmosphere. And I had 2 days of about 3 to 4 hours each day, 2 days in a row, where I was in this state. And I just kept understanding, which is coming out in your story, which was be present and examine everything around you and look at everything, because everything is alive and everything is connected. And when you do that, your access to these imaginary walls, or these self-imposed boundaries that include elements of time and space, will be gone. And you literally can think yourself to wherever you want to be, like you were saying, in a conscious state. The other thing that's interesting too, you talked about the white lion, I think with something on its head. Morgan's been doing these groups going to the New Earth grid. They're amazing. I can't explain them. They're just absolutely amazing. And 2 groups ago, which would have been, I think, about right at the tail end of your trip, as it started, I saw this white lion, or I was this white lion. I don't know the difference. And there was a big blue star in the middle of its forehead. And I'm listening to you going, oh my God, this is all really connected, isn't it? It really is.
The thing is, we all star beings. We all star beings. We all come from other galaxies and star systems. We don't belong to Earth. Earth has always been like an experiment that has been done, from the beginning. And souls had all had to sign contracts and say, I'm taking part in an experiment.
Yeah.
So, this Earth does not belong to anybody, okay? They can say, I am, the president or whatever, but in truth, you are not. You never were. The divine created this planet for a very specific reason. And that was because it was like a prototype to see how life would actually develop on this planet and how they would actually create on that planet. But unfortunately, since the wars of heaven started and you had this dark faction that actually decided to turn their back on divinity and the law of one, you had, these factions always coming to Earth. And some factions have decided they own the Earth, which is not true. They do not own the Earth. And you never can own what is not yours in the first place to own. And it's so beautiful because with this whole consciousness awakening, the truth is going to come out.
It's inevitable. I mean, it's like I said, I'm looking at your pictures thinking, how can I be getting, I told you in a comment, I know you got millions of comments, but I was like, I feel like I'm living vicariously through you. Like every time I look at a picture, something's coming out and talking to me, or I know I can't put my finger on it all the time, but it made me wonder because of how your trip coincided with the way the energy has moved in the last 5 weeks. And it was April, the last day of March. And from that day, and I don't keep track of this stuff, all of these solar flares and CMEs and Schumann spikes, they just started coming. I think one day there was over 70. And April was a really blistering month. It was like you said, everything's coming up, but these first few days of May have just been absolutely incredible. Even though I went through, and I'm sure others have, a few hours of processing or transmuting. Like I was telling you, and I found these subtle victim consciousness loops, and just instantly, boom, they were gone. And I called Morgan at 3:00 in the morning. I was like, I'm back. Like a few hours ago, I was like, what's going on here? I felt like I was, but you know what I did is I got out on the land and I drove around and I looked at the mountains and I looked at the river. I mean, it was the lake, everything. And it was just like everything just started coming back. So it makes me wonder the way this month feels. It feels like a very important month. And it also makes me wonder because it's moving. Like we keep saying every time we talk, and I talk to other people, wow, it's moving fast. But wow, it's moving really fast since the 22nd of February. I mean, I can't even imagine what 4 weeks doing what you were doing. To me, that would just feel like 40 years of maturation, just of gaining wisdom. And like I said, I'm surprised you guys didn't disappear in a portal.
Yeah, I still feel like, I'm in a different world now. It's really, that is where I am. It's not, it's quite difficult for me, to get to my rounds and whatever else, because I just feel I don't need that anymore. It's not like it's fine. It's not me anymore. I have changed dramatically. The shift is just dramatic. And they told me that the shift now will escalate. It's by the end of this year. So much will become in that higher state. It's so interesting because when we were working at the lower part after that Timbavati thing, I was told again to go to the map And then in the map, I saw, I was actually what this man was saying to us in Punta Maria about go to this place because that's one of the most sacred places. We never found it, but what we found, what we were supposed to see, we did see. Unfortunately, that part that we were looking for is in private hands because somebody or other, for some or other reason, I don't know, money, got a private concession for that. And we could not get into that private owned whatever, which is a pity. But in the way that all of us constellates, I was told to look at the map. And when I looked at the map, I understood why I had to work with the waters. I had to work with the waters in the deepest sense. Because so often I had to sing with the waters with places where waters were, whatever. It's fine. And you must remember that the spine itself, every vertebra, has got fluid in it.
That's right.
Okay. So I was told this is the spinal fluid of the earth to open up the tuning fork so that we can tune into that higher dimensional state. And it's so interesting. There are 7 rivers there and 7 rivers coming down in a confluence. And then I realized, oh my goodness, this is a repeat of Egypt. What I was working with in Egypt, what I was working with in Jerusalem, what I was working with in Delphi, and all those places in France. Understanding now that this is the 7th earth that is now born.
7th earth from the 7 sisters, Pleiades. 7 rivers. What do you think? What's it going to look like? I mean, this is the saying that like it being completed or reaching a certain point by the end of the year. I mean, this falls in line with Franco's, his information. Just spoken a different way. And I feel that your energy. I've always felt that your energy and his energy were almost like brother and sister or something. But he talks about 2023, not specifically January 1, but he talked about in 2023, councils would begin to lead the world. Councils of people like you. And I thought, well, how's that ever going to happen? Because this would have been like in 2020 when he first started talking about this. And now I can see, because even through my personal experience, like those 2 days, those 3-hour periods, I could tell, like I could feel like Morgan next to me as I was examining and being present with what was in front of me. I can't explain it, but I feel like I could just literally walk into your lounge. I mean, it's the potential is, and be physically myself.
Because that's what teleportation is all around. That is what they're telling me is coming back. We will be able to dissolve our bodies, okay? So we literally like this energy field, like this electromagnetic atoms floating around. We will be able to teleport us wherever we want to be and then assume the physical embodiment again. And that's exactly what the ancients used to. They used to use the energy fields. That's how they got where they wanted to be. And you can use the very same thing if you stand in certain portals on the earth and you can go intergalactically wherever you want to be. And that's exactly on the same principles that the intergalactic fleet craft work. That's why they can make themselves visible and invisible. Nothing is solid. We think that everything is solid. We are in a great illusion. That was the great illusion of the 3D. Nothing is solid. You're not bound by anything. It's so beautiful because, when I tune into when they were celebrating in these motherships, and saying, thank heavens, this work is now coming into completion. I saw how all these different races, from all these intergalactic councils and whatever, you must remember, not everybody looks like us, some look differently and whatever. But they all, the Christed consciousness is within them. They're all Christed races. They're the ones that always held everything together. And they were literally celebrating, and they were saying, thank you. And then I realized that this is a divine master plan that has been there from the beginning. Earth was never lost. It was a time frame that was given to Earth where people could play out whatever they wanted to play out. But that time has ended now.
Yeah. God. Yeah, I saw this. There's a young lady coming on next week, and I happened to catch one of her videos, and she was talking about her own download or transmission of or understanding of why we're here, what's this existence all about. And basically, from a soul perspective, it was to come into polarity, and it moves like in slow motion. So everything has the deepest impact, like every pain, every suffering. It's so that we could feel that as souls in the most extraordinary way. Like you said, Earth is not for sissies, which I got to say, the last two times you came on, I'm like, wow, Judith, you're putting stuff out, and it's just like, whoa, like, it's like warriorist mode. But these pictures and these, the retelling of and the sharing of, through your words, just the energy, like you are, like, I don't see any fear whatsoever in you anymore, period. Like, was it like that for you and your traveling partners?
Yeah. Because we were tuned in.
Yeah.
And we were tuned in, and when you are tuned in, you are tuned in. That's it. But the thing is, there is nothing to fear. What do you fear?
Yeah.
Because it's not up to every single soul to make that transition. It's your choice. It's not anybody else's business. It's not anybody else's worries. It's your own. You've got to take responsibility for that which you are. You can't shove it onto your husband or your whatever and say, well, fine. It was so interesting because we were doing this work, and being at, and Lynette, who's with me, she's just gone through a partnership that broke up, etc., and whatever. And she said something profound, which actually I have been told many times, before. And I never sort of like quite realized that, because I always thought myself, well, I'm not quite sure about this. But she said to me, Judith, we could not do this work if we had partners, okay? If we had partners. You know why? It's not because partners are not good in your life or whatever, but few people understand that. If you are called to do this work, you can't have any distractions, okay?
Yeah.
You have to keep focused and disciplined on the work, okay? Unfortunately, if you are in a partnership, your energies get pulled.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not on the same wavelength, oh boy, it's going to get worse, okay? Mm-hmm. Then you've got children, and children pull you even more, okay? That is why in the ancient mystery schools, you did not get married. You did not go into partnership, because it was known that you need to keep focused and disciplined in that form. And if you do go into a partnership, it has to be someone who's exactly the same. Yeah. And that's what they keep telling me, is that it's a time in the new earth where your divine complement will be your true divine complement, who is that.
Yes. Yes, I can feel that. And even if I look at the last year, Morgan's been gone a little over a year. Mm-hmm. It was so painful at the beginning for both of us, but we kept coming back to love every day through the ups and downs that everyone's been going through. But as time went on, understanding through the experience, the wisdom of it all. It has so many, like everything, so many multiple purposes and meanings. But we as individuals needed to raise our frequency and do the work, so to speak, so we could meet everybody here at this place that we find ourselves at. I'm absolutely just teeming with excitement as to what, because over and over it seems like, especially like during this last 3 years that we've collaborated and others, it just keeps moving up. The timeline just keeps moving up, and it's just absolutely amazing. And it seems like as I gather on these shows and in these groups that Morgan's doing, that the silence is speaking like never before, which has to be the telepathy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's palpable. It's beyond palpable.
It is. And the thing is, what it all comes back is the power of love. To love yourself so much that you will decide, I am stepping into this higher phase. I am stepping into that new earth. I am stepping into my new embodiment. And it means that I will have to let go of this and that and the next thing. I have to allow myself to be transformed and transfigured. And the thing is, I cannot do that if I cling on to anything.
That's right.
In my group sessions, when I do my white flame teachings, it has come up that a lot of that's why I mentioned this about being alone. People's marriages are in trouble. People's partnerships are in trouble. They have problems with their kids, etc., like that. But on the other hand, you must remember that a lot of this has come through many lifetimes, okay? It's not just this lifetime. Sometimes the patterns carry over, from lifetime to lifetime. You meet the same old souls because you created those patterns in a previous lifetime. But now you're coming to the state in this moment, okay,
Yep.
where we are being freed from karma. Those patterns, we've been freed. The divine has freed us from karma. We're free, okay? It's your personal choice whether you're going to keep on doing those old patterns again, whether you're going to shame and blame yourself and everybody else, or are you going to finally step into your full power and finally forgive yourself and finally forgive everybody else and love yourself so much that you say, I wish to stand into the truth of who I am and grow into that again as the truth I am. We all have that innate truth in our souls that we now need to stand in. And when we fully embrace the divinity within ourselves, we can't be anybody else but we were truth are. That is it. It's the choice that we now have.
Yeah, and it's all like the human conscious choice. That's it. Like that's what I was getting this past week. I was trying to explain it to Morgan last night. It was like, with our choices, we create now. With our choices, we create. It was so interesting last night when we did the group with these beautiful women. I was the only man in there. So that was, and I did it the week before with them for the first time. They call it the UK group. And it was so amazing to see energetically and literally this quality stepping forward. And one of the ladies last night, she was the first one to speak, and she said in so many words, I don't speak, She said, I'm like Morgan, I want to be in the back, but I know I have to step up now. And to me, she just captured this thing, the goddess, the mother goddess energy. And I'm not talking about just the individual. I'm talking about seeing it in the grid, like seeing this very subtle, unaffected mother energy that's coming through the grid, like coming through the back door. Like no one's talking about it. It's being done etherically, and just seeing the microcosm of a bunch of women gathering with an open heart. Like, to me, that just says it all. That's what's coming back. And I can't even imagine, like what you're saying, being on an earth where nothing gets killed.
Yeah.
That's a paradise. It's a paradise where there's no such thing as worry. And I know it sounds like, but this is who we are.
This is who we are. I had a beautiful interchange with animals, lately, but they were telling me something. I remember that I was staying at this place, where I was right under the sacred mountain. I had the pyramid behind me and the sacred mountain in front of me. And funnily enough, it was exactly in 77 that my chalet was. You see how the seventh come up. But that morning I just got up and I got outside. I had this beautiful view, and I just wanted to have a cup of tea, before I start my morning. When these kudus came out, the kudus are antelope. They're the biggest antelope in South Africa, and it's so beautiful. They use, and they were eating from the leaves of the tree. They actually have free access to this whole premises. It's so beautiful because you have these wild animals walking everywhere peacefully. They're busy grazing on the grass, and they know they're safe there, you see. And then I stood up and I wanted to take a photo of her. And this ewe came to me, and I felt that she was giving me a message, because she just stood there and I looked into her eyes. The softness, the love that came out of those eyes was, to me, the epitome of what interconnectedness is. And my heart center opened and her heart center, and there was this exchange of energy, loving energy between us. And that was my message, is that when we are all one, there is nothing to fear with us. There's nothing to fear. We can all live alongside each other and with each other. We can all be in that beautiful creation that the Divine Father and the Divine Mother created as one.
Yeah, and the thing with the animals, because I'm sensitive to the animals, and I've told you before, I have this portal back here, which is another story of the last 2 or 3 weeks that I won't get into, but it was about a week ago. I've had these 6 cats hanging around. Oh, is it me gone or is it her? Let's see. Let me check. Oh, she's frozen. Wow, isn't this... Look, that's her... it's her frequency band. Oh, you're back. I think your voice is... You're muted. Oh, you're back. You're back. Wow, that was crazy. You see what happens? She hit a frequency, and that's what I'm wondering. But I was going to say this. I have like 6 cats have been hanging around here. They're all feral cats. And one night I heard all this, and they started talking to me. And I talked about it before. But then one morning, just a few days ago, I got up, I looked out the window into the portal, and there was a cat I've never seen. It was gray and white, and it was just staring at me, and it wouldn't stop looking at me. And I went outside, and it kept staring at me. And now it ends up on the front porch on my windowsill staring at me. And finally, I was able to get past my nerves or my self-consciousness, and it said to me, I'm here to escort you through, not necessarily this portal, but through the portal. I'm here to let you know that I am not just like these other cats. And all the other cats are gone now.
Yeah.
And she just basically says, I'm an interdimensional being, and I'm here to personally escort you through the portal, whatever that means. And I guess that's going to be continued to be find out, or for me to find out. But
it's the portal to that interdimensionality.
Yeah.
She's going to be your guide. Like she's going to guide you through it, because cats are very psychic. They're immensely psychic, and so she was. But if they stare at you like that, it means that they have a message for you. I've had like the elephant that just came straight to me, and said, "Okay." And once the message was delivered, off the elephant went.
Well, it's crazy because all the cats hang around in the back by this little forest, and she came to the front. And so, about 3 nights ago, right before I had some friends come in. And I had to get up to use the restroom in the middle of the night, and I was coming back to my room, and she had jumped on the windowsill, and all she would do was just stare at me, right? So now I bought some cans of cat food, and I feed her in the front, and she's always there. And the crazy thing is my friends came in, and they're very high frequency. They're a couple. They've done a lot of work together over the years, so that, I really respect their frequency. We did some stuff together here. So they were getting ready to leave, and she was out there, and she won't go to people, but she went around them and came to me. And it wasn't the first time. So it's like, do I know you? Obviously, there's something going on here. So
that she was one of your guardians and things, whatever. And we worked with the cats. They were always our they were our guides in things. It's interesting when I had that conversation with Casper the White Lion, and as I say, was roaring outside. He said to me, "I'm so grateful to see you again because I was your lion. I always went with you."
God, how many?
Because in Egypt and so on, they used to have lions. If you had a certain consciousness, you walked with the lions because the lions were like they were part of the priesthood. They worked with the lions. That's why. They didn't need people, and they didn't need anybody else. They came from Sirius as very high guardians.
Did you? I mean, how many times, or did you? The group did you just start crying? I mean, just
I did, yeah.
I would imagine it was a daily thing just to be in such power.
Yeah, it's very moving. You can't put it into words, and it to me it just opened up the whole understanding of what we're stepping into, and what I'm sharing with you tonight will go straight to your soul because your soul remembers that state. Your soul understands it at some level. And that is exactly what Jesus and all those that ever came to earth were trying to get across to humanity. And that is why it says the kingdom of heaven is within you. It's not outside you, it's inside you. And you have to embrace your fullness of that Christ consciousness. And the Christ consciousness is that super consciousness, the divine consciousness that lives within you. And once you understand that everything is connected, everything, you are the tree, you are the rock, you are the cat, you are everything. You are the stars, you are the planets, the galaxies. There's nothing in creation that is not you, because divinity lives within all things, visible and invisible. And we will come to the full, we will understand that what is invisible is actually more real than the visible.
Yes. Yeah. That's how this feels to me, like the whole kind of like phasing into like a lucid dream state. It's a whole different feeling. Everything is enhanced. You see everything. Everything has meaning. Everything is you. And I think about the things that we worry about and the things that are presented to us, and they just seem like nothing now. COVID's nothing. Ukraine. I mean, it's like getting caught up in the stories, like getting caught up that this is my body. This is all of me. Like you were saying earlier about the vessel. So I feel so like I just got this giant transmission for 90 minutes, and thank you for spending this time with us. But what do we do now?
Be open to be transformed. Be open to be transfigured. Get out of your own way. To me, it's you get moments where the gratitude just wells up, and you realize there's nothing missing. Everything is perfect as it is. When we start understanding that we're part of the greater master plan, which is now into fulfillment. As the prophets have already prophesied how many years ago, they could see it coming, okay, but they could never be it. And many of them had this great, sort of like longing to be here when that happens. All right. And many of those souls are here, they're back, they're incarnated, because they wanted to be here to actually witness this, to be in this transfiguration, to be in this transition. And what I've been told is that with the Divine Mother now completely returned, as you say, it's this huge mother energy that's there. The intuitive centers open, the third eye opens, the transmitter channels open. And if you try to block that in any formal way, you cannot go access that whole thing. It's to be open. You've got to be like an open chalice, and allow that all to flow into you, and you'll be lifted. Because it's not, it's the ego that will drive to fear, the ego that will put up, the ego to say, oh, what will other people think of me? I can't say this, But when you are absolutely in that vessel, you will speak out, because you cannot do anything. And if you not speak out, your actions will speak out for you anyway. A lot of us do not need to speak. What we do energetically is in any case broadcast out. Just like those pictures, we're already broadcasting out what needs to be broadcast. I was told that, and I had so many feedbacks with that. People say, oh my goodness, these pictures are energetically talking to me. We are in a state where we will understand that we are universal beings. And we are but the vessels through which this change is now happening. But our souls have been prepared for this. And there's not one soul that ever comes to earth without having the tools.
Makes you look at the world. Makes you look at the world a whole different way. Mm-hmm. And still love and respect the experience. But I was telling that group, because I took a nap and I had to get up at starts at 4 a.m, and then of course I had you at 12, and it was so funny because like what you're saying, I'm seeing just like in the experience last night, because when we came together, we went into a circle and it was silent for so long, and then all of a sudden you could feel everybody connecting, open. And then things just started going down. And at the end, I said, oh, my God, I don't know how I'm going to go from here to Judith Kusel in a few hours. But, yeah, I could really see it for the I don't want to say the first time, but I saw it in a way last night. I saw how the frequency was expanding from one cell, so to speak, one person to another, but one small group to another, and God, there's just, and it's moving so fast, and that presence is speaking now, that presence that was suppressed in the world,
and it's going to be felt by more and more people, because it's literally letting loose now.
Yeah.
The things. There's always been that talk about the outpouring of the Holy Spirit. Okay. The Holy Spirit is a feminine. Okay. So in other words, it's the Shekinah is finding it, and the Holy Sophia. The Holy Sophia has always been wisdom. She's what she carries. If you look at Jesus's teachings, his inner teachings, he talks about the Holy Sophia. Yeah. And the Holy Sophia came to earth because she loved humanity so much. But when she found that nobody could hear her, nobody could hear them because they fell into this density where they couldn't connect to wisdom anymore, to that inner voice, to that inner knowing what is deep within her. But now this is impouring. It's coming. It's like the floodgates of heaven have opened up. And with that, every cell in our body will remember, every soul will remember the truth of who they are. And that is the beauty of it. And I see that as an inpouring of divine love. Literally an inpouring of divine love. It's like the floodgates of heaven are opening, like the rain is pouring up, and the rain is the love of a divine saying us, here, you're my child. I created you. You're part of me, and I am part of you. Wake up. Here I am. I've never left you. I am here. I am that. I am. I'm here inside you.
Yeah. Like those stones you're talking about. Like, we've been here the whole time. You just weren't looking. But that happened to me yesterday when I cleared this very subtle victim consciousness, which was really silly. It was a very subtle. It's not even worth mentioning, but it was there. And as I hit the point where it transfigured, or we might say released, it was the first time I ever had an experience like that where, oh, wow, look at that go away. It wasn't like that. It was like, look what's coming in. And it was just like this pure light. I could see it going into my body. I thought, wow. I didn't even try to figure out what it was, but what it felt like was what you're talking about. Like everything, like equity, equality, love, freedom, everything, all the virtues of the universal soul. And I was like, wow. Yeah. What a beautiful, thank you so much. And that around your neck, around the neckline of your dress, I don't know what that is, but it's just been like jumping out at me the whole time.
This is African beadwork. It's handmade by the Ba Palaboa. They are a tribe. And I found this just as we went out of the Palaboa gate, the Kruger gate, and in a beautiful shop that was quite sort of like a wow. It's community projects, where everything is handcrafted. And when I saw this, I knew I had to buy it. Wow. And this night, this first time I wear it. But it's all handmade with love by the local woman of a tribe. So it's Africa. You can see Africa weaves all the colors together. They're the weavers of nations. That's what Africa is.
Well, it's hitting me like the pictures. I mean, like the whole time I'm talking to you, at first I'm going, what is that? Mm-hmm. And I'm listening to you, but I'm like, I kept, because every time I looked at it, it was like it was, well, it doesn't look two-dimensional to me. It looks more than three-dimensional even. And yeah, so God, isn't it amazing how the frequency of what we're talking about, the mother, the space in between that's always been there, how it's activating us through pictures and through a beautiful ornamental neck piece, and of course through individuals like yourself. So thank you so much. I don't know what to say.
But this time all is all about, I just want to share this with you.
Yes.
When we were in the Kruger Park, we were looking at the rocks and we were seeing all these, whatever we were seeing. Now the people, of course, they drive in the Kruger, they want to see animals. Okay, now they stop next to you. What are you looking at? Rocks. Huh? At one stage, I was singing the Pyramid Awake, so two ladies stopped next to us. Oh, what you doing? Did you see anything here? Where's the elephants or whatever? I said, no, there's a pyramid there. What?
Oh my gosh.
Off I go. And that's exactly what will happen, is we will have been stepped into a totally new world. And the ones next to us will say, well, what the heck, where's you? What happened to you? What are you seeing? What are you experiencing? Because they can't see it. They can't experience it anymore because they left behind.
You're going to have to, write a sequel to this now.
Yeah. That's good. I was looking at my photos today. I've got so many photos that I don't know how to get it from my cell phone to my laptop. My laptop just says he's got no space left. So
you're going to have to get a hard drive, an external hard drive. Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. And really, it came at a really good time. I know not just for me, but for everybody. It's a big weekend. So I love you and thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And I'll see you when I see you again. Hopefully we
Thank
can
you
see.
for the work you are doing. You're doing an amazing job, and I'm so grateful about that sacred circles that you and Morgan Lee are doing. It's beautiful work, and so necessary now that these communities of souls come together. That's what I'm always told. The communities of souls will come together. We will start bringing the holistic way of life back. The organic life, working with all animals and birds and trees and everything. We will start going sort of like in a retreat, but in the retreat, we will create the new earth together because it's
Yeah.
already there.
Well, I mean, I feel like a participant, and I feel because I watched her download this, and then I'm seeing other women are forming their own circles as well, and yet they're all connected. But I could really see it last night. This time, last weekend was the first time I really saw the feminine energy or the mother's energy, I would say, and even last night when it all started, because what normally happens before we start, I already start getting it. Like it's almost like I'm observing it, and I saw, I saw us go through this I guess portal, and it was just pitch black, and I heard, "This is the mother's womb. Like now it's time for new creations. What do you want to create?" And it was just amazing. It was just amazing. And so this is happening. This is why I kept marveling at. I kept saying, "This is how she's doing it. She's doing it through not the back door, but in terms of like the human perception, you would think it'd be in the headlines or whatever the case is. But no, it's this. It's the purest form of communication, is the way I see it. So thank you, and I'll see you soon. I hope you take care. Let us know if you're going to be going on any crazy trips again.
Well, they just say, go, as I say, when I was procrastinating, I was literally saying, push, get onto the plane now.
Yeah.
So I went a week earlier than actually I wanted to, but it turned out beautifully.
Well, you did big work there. So
Yeah,
thanks again
thank you.
on behalf of everybody, and thank you
Thank
everybody
you.
for joining us
Yeah.
today. Yeah, you take care.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Todd, and lots of blessings.